All right, well, let's go ahead and get started then. Hi, everybody. Viewers of my channel will know that I'm passionate about 8-bit computers and blink and light toys as they're known. The Altair 6800, the MSI 8080, all of those old computers with the front panels and the toggle switches fascinate me. I'm also a big fan of the Ben Eater series on YouTube, and I've built the 8-bit computer in his series on breadboard with discrete digital integrated circuits. I have simulated it in a logic simulator called Logisim, and here we are in Autonauts, and I've got a pretty good start on making one work here. I did start working on this in an earlier version of Autonauts, and I got pretty far with it, but it was just too slow. The memory in the robots was limited, and it just made it really challenging to get uh, any kind of meaningful work done in a meaningful short period of time. So I put it away for a little bit, but they recently released the industrial expansion, and some new robots have more memory and they move faster, and so I upgraded everything to the new robots and uh, used the extra memory to optimize some of the tasks that they're doing in here. So anyway, I think I've got a pretty good demo in here, and I'm going to start by just going over the sections of the computer here, and I'm going to step it through manually a little bit at first, and then we'll turn it on and just let it run. So I started down here with a program counter. And a program counter is just a 4-bit register here that we can clear and we can increment when we need to. So as we can see, I'm going to assume that most people watching this video are familiar with hexadecimal and binary. The least significant bits on the right, the most significant bits on the left. These are the ones, the twos, the fours, and the eights. Okay, so this is a number 2, and if we wanted to increment that, we can come over here to the PC increment box and watch this guy go through, and basically he's just adding one coconut to the box, and then if there's 2 in there, he takes them both away and puts a carry in the next one. He just keeps checking for carries all the way through there. We can also clear it by putting it in the clear box here, and then he'll go ahead and clear everything out and then tell us that he's done by putting it in this box. By the way, I thought it was really kind of serendipitous to have the new robots look like monkeys, and the coconuts. I started out using acorns, but I switched everything over to the coconuts because I thought it made more sense for monkeys to be throwing coconuts around. And oddly enough, when I automated the production of these robots, a couple of the parts of their body are made out of coconuts too. So it was kind of a serendipitous route all the way around. So the program counter can be incremented, it can be cleared, and we can also copy it into other registers. For example, the next thing that we need is we need some memory. That's what all these boxes are up here. Each memory is in columns, each address is in columns. So this is address 0, address 1, address 2, and we can populate this address register to select one of these columns in the RAM that we want to read or write to. There's robots here that do that decoding, and I'll explain that a little bit more when we see it in action. So I'm going to go ahead and let's clear, well, let's clear it out. And this one is the clear. Kind of tried to standardize the location of some of these too, so it's easy to remember which one's which. All right, so we cleared it out, and it probably wouldn't be real interesting to copy a 0 to a 0. So let's put some bits in here. We'll put one there and one there. So now I'm going to tell it to copy the program counter to the address register. He's the one who does that. So the first thing he's going to do is he's going to clear the address register. Well, it was already clear, and now he's already copying the bits. Now that triggers this column select decoding automatically. And so basically we have to convert this into a number, and I do that by just checking if there's a coconut in here. This one, it puts 1 from here into here. If there is one here, this is the 2s. It takes 2 out of here, puts them in here. This one takes 4 out of there and puts them in there. This one takes 8 out. By the time we get done, we could have up to 16 coconuts in here, and another guy comes along, picks up as many as he can, and starts dropping them off one at a time in each one of these. Once he's done, then, and he's going to stop at some point, and then another one comes along behind and picks up all of the ones that we don't need until it finds the last one in the row, and that's the column that we want to read. So in this case, we had a 5 in the address register, and this is column 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 has been selected. So and that all happens automatically. Anytime you move something into the address register, it'll automatically do the column select. In the memory, we've got the low order bit down here, and the high order bit is up here. The one in the middle is just where we store the bits that we use to populate these boxes. Also, the memory is organized into the upper 4 bits being instruction and the lower 4 bits being data. Of course, if it's not an instruction in the program, then you can use all 8 bits for a number if you need that. Along the top row here, these groups of robots are responsible for reading and writing the RAM, and then there's one more in here that also clears. So whenever we write something, they're not smart enough to be able to do like just a straight copy. You have to clear it out first so you know all the bits are out of there, and then just move bits in where you need them. So one of these guys clears the row for a write, another guy does the writes, and then a third guy can do the reads. And they do all of that with this RAM register right here. And notice that our RAM register is now 8 bits wide to match the 8-bit wide RAM. So we've got these guys here take care of the RAM reads. Each guy can handle 4 columns. And they are the ones that are determining which one of these do the reading and writing. Basically, they come down here and they'll look for this one box that's got a coconut in it. It'll grab that one and bring it up to whichever one of these blocks these guys are working out of, whether they need to do a read or a write. So having the RAM register here means we only need one set of these guys. Everything happens through the RAM register. It makes it run a little bit slower, but we would have a lot of these guys stacked up here if we didn't do it that way. So once we've read or written to the RAM, well, in this case, reading. So let's before we do that, let's come over here and look at this section where I call this the master control. We've got a reset. He clears everything out and sets it out to 0 and then starts the program running. This is the master control guy. He does most of the work. He has a little trick here where it actually takes 2 coconuts in here for him to do his thing. Once he decides to do it, he always puts one back in there, and what that lets you do is grab the coconut out of there and put it in the stop box. If you want to stop him, the halt box works similarly. You'll see later we have a halt instruction, and when that executes, it takes it out of here and puts it in there so that it halts the processor. I've also got a single step that allows you to run one instruction at a time, and that's what all these guys do. This guy here is the one who's responsible for fetching the instructions, and we'll see how that works in a minute. But basically, he reads the memory and moves the memory into the instruction register so it can be decoded and executed. And that's what these guys here do. Once they've decoded what the instruction is, then they will tell which one of these guys up here that execute the actual instructions, which one to do their thing. So again, some of this will make more sense as we see it going, but up here we have the instruction register. Again, the upper 4 bits are the instructions, so it looks like that was a jump, and the lower 4 bits are the operand, and it looks like we were jumping to memory location 2. Up here, very similar to the way the RAM is decoded, this upper 4 bits of the instruction register are decoded by these guys. They count up 1, 2, 4, 8 in one of these, lay them out here, pick up the ones we don't want. Whichever one's left is whichever instruction we're going to execute. Then these guys come along and find this and tell this guy to do his thing. Up here, all computers have general purpose registers. Right here we have the accumulator. This one you can read and write numbers from memory. You can load a number from 0 to 15 into the accumulator. It's also used by the arithmetic logic, or in conjunction with the arithmetic logic unit here, which has an 8-bit register. And the way it works is you operate on values in the A register, and your first operand is in the A register. Your second operand is in the ALU register. Then these guys perform whatever operation, in this case it's add, on the ALU register, and then copy the results back into the accumulator register. We also have flags over here. We've got a carry flag and a 0 flag. I'm not sure about the 0 flag yet, but the carry flag has been implemented in the add instruction, and it will generate a carry if we overflow. And I think that covers pretty much everything. So when I was doing the manual demos here, I was moving this token, or sometimes I call it a bean, around manually, but that gets tedious pretty quickly. So let's go ahead and see what happens when we turn this on to run by itself. I'm going to drop the bean in this reset container over here, and then we'll follow him around and see what he does. So he's clearing the program counter. All these other registers kind of take care of themselves when it starts running. But we're clearing the accumulator and the ALU register, so those will start out 0. Going to clear the flags, make sure they're all empty. And I think we're ready to run. So he's going to put it in the master control. He's going to tell this guy to go do a fetch. First thing we're doing is, we missed the fetch, but it's moving the program counter into the address register. It's decoding that. The address register is a 0, so now we're redecoding to row 0. And now he's all done. Now we have to increment the program counter. Now that that's done, we can do the memory read. Got to clear the RAM register first. He's going to tell this guy over here to do the read. He's going to copy this into the RAM register. There it is. And Now he's all done. These guys don't have nothing to do yet. So now we have to copy the RAM to the instruction register, but we have to clear it out first. So now we've got the RAM in the instruction register, and we're decoding this instruction, which is a 1. It says right here a 1 is a load immediate. So we've decoded it. Now he's going to tell one of these guys to go nudge one of these guys. So now what we're doing is we're loading this value of 1 into the accumulator, and that's all done. So we're on to the next instruction now. We're copying the program counter to the address register. Had to clear it out first. Now we're decoding this, so that's going to be address 1, which is 0, 1, which should be this one. And now we're going to increment the program counter. And now we're going to do the memory read. This time we're reading from address 1. Cleared it out. Okay, this is a 24. And in just a minute we'll get that moved up into the instruction register. Clearing it out. Alright, so now we're going to decode this instruction, which is a 2, and that's 0, 1, 2. That's a store accumulator. Alright, so it's all decoded. Now he's going to tell one of these guys to do their thing. So first thing we have to do is get the address that we want to store the accumulator. The address is 4. So now we have to decode the address. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 should be this one. Alright, so we've got that decoded. So now we need to move the accumulator down into the RAM register. That's what this guy's doing. He's got to clear it out first. And the only thing that's in the accumulator is a 1. So now we're all done. Now he's going to tell this guy to do a clear first. We have to clear this. Not too bad. It already had a 1 in it. And now he's going to do the write. Grabs a bit, puts it in there, says, hey, I'm done. And the instruction's over. We're going to fetch our next instruction. So address is going to be 2. Decode it. 0, 1, 2. Okay, we're all decoded. Increment the program counter. Read the instruction. It's 42. That's going to be our add instruction. Okay, all done. RAM register to instruction register. Clear it first. Decode the instruction 401234 is an add. Okay, we're all decoded. Now we're going to execute. So we're copying the instruction register now, the address in the instruction register, which is 4. That's the value we're going to add to the accumulator. And we're decoding that. And take away the ones we don't want. All right, we're all decoded. So now we need to read the RAM. It's going to read address 4, which is still a 1. So now we're going to move that into the ALU register. And first we have to clear it. It's already clear. He's going to copy it in there. So now we're going to come over here and clear the carry. And now these guys are going to do the add. So the first thing they're going to do is they're going to copy all the bits from the A register to the B register. And then they're going to do the overflow, or I'm sorry, the carry check that they do when they're incrementing the program counter. And if it had overflowed, then it would have generated a carry. It didn't, so now we're moving the results back into the accumulator, and we're all done. And we'll do our fetch. This time from address 3. Get rid of those. All right, increment the program counter. All right, so now we're going to read the RAM, which is this one. It's an 82. And 82 is a jump instruction. It's going to jump to address 2 in memory, so 0, 1, 2. Hey, we're jumping right back to the add instruction. So we're just going to keep adding 1 to the accumulator, and well, eventually it'll overflow, and we'll keep going from there until it overflows again. So we read the RAM, we're copying it to the instruction register, we're decoding this instruction. This time the instruction is 8. This is this guy, which is a jump. rid of all those that we don't want. And then he tells this guy to do his thing. So he's going to come down here, and we're going to copy the instruction register lower four order bits into the program counter. So that was address 2 that we wanted to jump to. And so we're all done. And when we execute the next instruction, we'll be executing from instruction 2, from address 2 instead of address 4, had we not done the jump. Well, at this point, it doesn't get much more interesting. I will be making more videos where I will go into detail into how each of these sections work. If you're interested in learning more about this, I can't recommend the Ben Eater video series enough. It really kind of reinvented my interest in this. I had studied this a very long time ago, and then life happened, and now life's a lot simpler, and I have time to play around with things like this. And this was really instrumental in my understanding of how computers work and my subsequent career in IT. So I hope you find this interesting, and maybe it'll inspire you to learn a little bit more about how computers work. And if you enjoyed this, please give it a like. If you want to be reminded when I make more videos like this, I'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching.